for having me, guys. I'm from Salt Lake City. We have SLC SEM there. It's actually fairly new. It hasn't been around as long as you guys have. But you know, I've been a part of that as well. I'm going to be speaking today on content marketing, utilizing social media, and how to create content that will attract links, shares, get your brand out there, many other benefits that I'll speak about today. So, content marketing encompasses a few things. It encompasses the creation of content, which many people can get right, but the other facet of that is the promotion of content. And they both go hand in hand. You can create good content, but nobody's going to see it unless you promote it, or vice versa. And then the other half of that is the analysis and strategy of that content that you create. And all of these have to come together to create a perfect content marketing plan. You can't really do one without the other. And that's where I see a lot of businesses fail. Strong on the creation, weak on the promotion, or vice versa. I'm going to talk about all these things tonight. I'm going to start with content creation. So, content can also be called viral content, social content. It can be called link bait or share bait. In other words, you're baiting content out there to get links or to get shares. And that kind of content is content that is too interesting not to read. It's content that makes people feel something and want to share, strikes an emotion. It's content that provides effortless transfer to others. In other words, it's easy to share with other people. And it makes people want to share. It makes people feel an emotion to want to share with their friends and want to show other people this content as well. This is nothing new. Traditional magazines have been doing this forever. They've been doing this on the shelves of your local grocery store to try to get you to look at the content, to buy their magazine and pick it up off the shelf while you're in the grocery store line. Cosmopolitan is great at this. 3 things he doesn't have to know. 50 sex tips. How to own any room you walk into. These are headlines made to make you pick up the magazine and want to buy it. And these are the same type of things that you should implement into your content marketing. There's many different types of content. Content is a broad word. There is articles, infographics, widgets, quizzes, video. And there's different types that you can do for all of those different mediums. Lists, news, rants, interviews, parodies, satire, predictions, comparisons, polls, surveys, resources, how-to guides. There's many different angles that you can take to attract those links and shares. There's many benefits you have as well. So for one, you have traffic. Traffic is a great benefit. If you're a publisher, that can bring you in ad revenue if you're running CPM ads on your site. You have the visibility that comes from that content as well. You have branding and buzz, which in turn you can have links and social shares of that content if it's popular. And some of the sub-benefits of that are that if you have links and shares, therefore your SEO is better at that point. And therefore, if your SEO is better, you get more leads and sales, which is ultimately what you want, right? So you have to look at how content can bring in some initial benefits which can lead to other benefits down the road. And then you also have stickiness. You have people coming back to your site. They come back and want to check out your content. They're going to be subscribers of your newsletter, your Facebook page, your RSS feed, and they're going to be return visitors, visitors that come back and want to check out more of your content because they like the content you already have. So when you publish content out there and it's successful, you have basically 3 levels of traffic that come to your site. The first level is social media traffic. This is going to be high numbers. These are the numbers that you're getting from StumbleUpon and Reddit and sites like Dig, where you're getting a lot of people coming to your site. They're not sticking around much. They're only checking out the content that you published and they're leaving. They're not checking out your other content for the most part. They're not spending a lot of time on your site. They're just checking out the page that you published, and they're not really converting on your sales or leads. And you might think, well, this traffic's crap, but a good percentage of those people are going to link back to your site or share your site. And that's going to be a little bit more relevant traffic. So when they link back to your site, they have their audience coming and clicking on that link and going back to your site. There's a little bit more relevance there because likely the people that are going to link to you are a little bit more relevant than just broad social media traffic. And then the third level is search. So the more links you get, the more search you get. And when you have people coming in from search, those are the people that are highly relevant. And those are the people that convert the most. So you have to look at how the benefits create tiers and how they bring in benefits to your site far after the initial concept. And so from those links, you've all heard the adage, a rising tide raises all ships. Well, that's the same thing with links. You get a bunch of links to some content that you publish, and those links help the SEO of your whole entire site. Because that link juice that comes in on that one page then passes through your navigation and passes through the links that you have on your site. And you do that enough, and your whole site starts to benefit from the content you've been publishing, not just the specific content. Here's a case study. We did a blog post, amazing photos, big results from compact cameras. The whole point of this was to rank better for compact camera type terms. It got about 200,000 visits from social media users. It got about 200 links, which that's a 1-to-1 ratio from visits to links. That's pretty damn good. MSNBC and Live Science both linked to that site. Those are high authority sites. In a short period of time, the content that we were promoting started popping up for these keyword rankings in Google. Compact cameras, amazing photos from compact cameras, compact camera photos, compact camera results. Now these aren't sustained at this point, but this is the initial benefit that these people got from just this one piece of content and promoting that well enough to get this kind of traction. So the first thing you want to think about when you're creating content is who is your target audience? Who do you want to relate to? Who do you want to link to you? Why do they care? What would make them likely to spread your idea? And these are all questions to ask when you're thinking about ideas. You want to target people that are either creators or critics. Creators publish blogs, they have websites, they're journalists, they have a YouTube channel, they can talk about you. Or they're critics and they comment on other blogs or YouTube channels, publisher sites. The rest of these people don't really do much in the social media realm, but these are the type of people you want to think about when you're figuring out your target audience. Some of you may have heard of the linkerati, termed by SEO Moz. Those are the people that are able to link to you, and those are the people that are able to give you benefit to your content. After figuring out your audience, you want to figure out the angle of your content and how you're going to hook people into your content to get them to link to you, to get them to share your content. There's many different angles you can go. You can do news-based content. News-based content is likely to get a large amount of traffic and a spike for a short period of time, because after a week, is it news anymore? Not really. But if you create a resource or evergreen piece of content, that's likely content that's going to continue to keep on giving. That's likely content that's going to continue to get shared and continue to get linked to, because that content isn't going to die out in a week or a day or two like news content is. So there's many different angles and things to think about when creating content. And the lifespan is one thing to consider. So your plan revolves around brainstorming, research, development, publication, and the promotion of that content. And I'll walk through these right now. So brainstorming is one of the first things you want to do. You want to think about ideas that your audience would like, that they would link to, that they would share, that's going to be popular, it's going to be viral. And that includes your headlines. Your headlines are one of the most important things. We looked at that Cosmopolitan magazine. The headlines are what make people pick up that magazine. In our case, the headlines are what make people click. And we want to do everything possible to make people click on content. There are social media sites where people don't even read the content. They just look at the headline and they'll vote it up or down, just based on the headline alone because it appeals to them. Use action verbs. All these action verbs: discover, find, get, learn, join, see, read, etc. These make people click. And you got to consider this because this is how it's being shared on the rest of social media. So along with those headlines, you want to create curiosity. You want to tap into people's emotions, worry, fear, frustration, and anger. And what I mean by fear is that give people the fear of what they're missing out as opposed to what they're going to take away from their content, from your content. Let people know that if they don't read this piece of content, their life isn't going to be as complete as if they did. And that's the fear that makes people really, really want to read. And set expectations for them to make them want to read your content. Let them know what's in it for them if they do read the content. Step 2 then goes into the research. So after you've brainstormed, you go into the research phase. You want to research if the subject's timely, is it interesting? Has it already been done? You don't want to do something that's been done before. And if it has, what's your new angle? What are you going to do to that content to make it better than the time before? And find additional information that can aid the content. You want to validate all your resources and make sure that everything that you're publishing is 100% accurate. Because if it's not, there are people out there that will spend lots and lots of time to research every single fact that you've said in your piece of content and call you out if it's not true. And when that happens in the comments of social media, game over. All the time that you spent into creating your content and publishing your content and promoting your content is over as soon as someone comes in and makes a comment about how you're a liar or you're not credible. It's over at that point. So you really want to verify your resources. So when you go into publish the content and create the content, there are a few things that you want to do. You want to pay attention to the copy, the structure, the style, and the layout. And these are all as equally important. So I'll go into these here. A lot of people ask, how long should I make the content? And that's kind of a trick question because really what you want to do is you want to make content. You don't want to pay attention to word count specifically. A lot of copywriters, they'll charge per word. And that's just what they've done for a long time. So when you go to a copywriter and say, hey, I want a piece of content about this, they'll say, how many words do you want? I hate paying attention to that. You want to make sure that the content that you have speaks to your audience, is succinct as possible, and gets the message across. It doesn't matter how many words that takes. But to give you a rough guideline, because everyone keeps prodding that question, I'll break it down here. But first and foremost, you want to break up your content into sections to make long content seem shorter. So shorter paragraphs with headlines to chunk it up as much as possible so people don't look at it and feel like they're reading an essay. If people take one look at your content and feel like that it's going to take a lot of work to complete consuming your content, they're not going to want to read it. The first thing people do when they come to your content is judge it how it looks. So you want to make sure that it's going to be easy for them to consume. Explain each key idea or section as succinctly as possible while also being thorough, and make every sentence count. So if there's a sentence that doesn't really add value to your content, cut it out. So for news-based content that is more short-lived, it can be shorter. 300 to 500 words is fine. For something more insightful, you want to shoot for the 750 to 1,000 word range. And for evergreen content, guides, how-tos, things like that, it could be more than 2,000 words. It could be more, it could be less. But you just want to make sure that, again, you cover the subject thoroughly. And the best way to do that, regardless of what kind of content you're writing, is hook people in from the very beginning. Start with the climax. Get people hooked into the content so they continue to move through it. If you hide the best chunks of content, the best chunks of information, the best facts within the middle to bottom of your content, you're not hooking people in from the beginning and encouraging them to read down. Start with the climax at the very beginning and then move down to the minor details at the very bottom, because you want to get people to hooked in your content from the very beginning. And again, I'll go back to how the content looks is one of the most important things. Cracked.com, fantastic example. Who here has been to cracked.com before? A few of you. Go check it out tonight, because this is how to stylize content. They break up content visually. Okay? As you can see, they have a headline here, a big image. They use lots of white space, a subheadline, content with good line spacing in between, and visual imagery. This is pretty broken up content. This doesn't look like an essay when you first look at it. Break up content visually. Create a visual hierarchy. The hierarchy they create is a headline and a subheadline and images and body content. They make it skimmable, excuse me. They use headers, white space, consistency, and bulleted numbers. And they use supportive media. They use vivid imagery, they use screenshots, videos, links, and they do more than just text on a page. They give you much more value. Then, after you've created all that, and it's visually appealing, you move on to your publication of the content. You want to make sure it's easily shareable. If you want it to go viral, make sure it's easily shareable. And a lot of people make the mistake of just putting every social media sharing button they can on the actual content. But really think about, really narrow down your options. Where is your audience on social media? Where do you want them to share? And only supply those options, because people come to a piece of content and they have so many options that they just don't know where to share. Narrow it down for them and specifically tell them where you want them to share. And make it relevant too. You know, if you have a piece of content that belongs on Stumble but doesn't belong on Flickr, get rid of the Flickr button. Just keep the social buttons relevant to that piece of content. And that's really about knowing your audience, but it's also really knowing about the audiences on these social media sites too. And that's the other half of the equation, is figuring out where that content belongs. Make it easy to link to, as well as easy to share. A lot of people do this for infographics, where they create a little piece of code where you can copy it and paste it on your own website. And from this code, there's links that are contained in here. Now this can be used wisely, or it can be widely abused, as we've seen in our industry. People can link to places that are completely irrelevant or spammy and have nothing to do with the piece of content that they're trying to link to. Google recently came out and said that these kind of widget embed codes should be no-followed. What no-follow means is that you add this piece of no-follow code to a link, meaning to tell Google that, hey, don't crawl this link, ignore this link. If it's irrelevant, then I would highly suggest that. And you can choose to follow that or not, but that's one piece of advice I'll give. And more on the topic of infographics, it doesn't have to be article-based content. It can be visual-based content. It could be an image. We've all seen infographics. They're controversial as far as how well they work and if they're overdone or not. But the reality is that infographics still work, and they work well. And there's many different types of infographics, just like there's many different types of content. You can have charts, maps, diagrams, timelines. Any way you can think about visualizing your content. It can be static, it can be animated, it can move, it can be like a video. It can be interactive. You can click to enable certain features. But also think about some of the things that you already have, such as databases, and how you can make those visual, how you can make those interactive. And it doesn't necessarily have to be about creating new content. You can take content that you already have or a competitor already has and make that visual, make that interactive, and get people to link to that. I used to work for PETA, People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. PETA had a hard time getting people to interact and share and engage with their infographics. Well, their infographics were about beating you over the head with the animal rights message. I got them to think more broadly. These are two infographics we created. These are the thumbnails. I didn't know animals could do that. Fun facts about animals. What is your animal companion saying? basically how your dog or cat is communicating with you through their eyes, through their language, through their wagging their tails. This is just stumbleupon.com traffic. Who here uses stumbleupon.com? A few of you. To me, stumbleupon.com is the Google of social media. It can send tons of traffic. This one got 874,000 visits just from stumbleupon.com. From combined social media, it got about 1 million. And this one, 645,000 visits from StumbleUpon. As far as links go, this got less links. Even though it got more traffic, it got less links. Got about 87 versus 156, about double here on this infographic. But the time that went into the infographic, I don't know, 5 hours max, either one of these. And when you're getting about 1 million visits and about 150 links to an infographic, no brainer. I mean, that's just awesome. Now, granted, PETA is a bigger brand and they were able to leverage that. But again, I'm just pointing out stumbleupon.com here. And that's it. PETA doesn't have a big following on StumbleUpon. So consider these social media sources. So with that said, we're moving on to the promotion of the content because we just got done talking about the creation of it. Now, regardless of any social media site, StumbleUpon, Facebook, Twitter, whatever, most of the sharing happens with people copying and pasting a URL to their friends with an IM or an email. Now, this is debatable because Facebook's starting to overtake that statistic a little bit. But people do sharing more privately than publicly. And when that happens, those people that come to your site register in Google Analytics as direct traffic. They don't come from Facebook, they don't come from Twitter, they don't come from StumbleUpon. They're clicking an email, they're clicking a link that's not tagged, they're coming in as direct traffic. You don't know. So consider that. This is a bit unuseful, but for what it's worth, about 37% of traffic comes from Gmail. Next up, Yahoo Mail, about 26%. From the IM standpoint, Yahoo Messenger actually dominates Gtalk, 52% compared to 42%. And again, it's not exactly useful, but it's just good to know, I guess. From the social media channels, Facebook is a big go-to. I mean, it's twice the amount of, as far as people sharing, more people go and share on Facebook than they do on Twitter. Pinterest is catching up a bit in some forms of content, but Facebook is still the leader. And figuring out when to share on Facebook or Twitter is a big part of that. As you can see here, most users click 2 minutes after the content is shared. Your content does not have a very big lifespan regardless of whether you share on Facebook or Twitter. Most people click in a very short period of time. You want to figure out when the best time is to share on your Facebook page or Twitter channel. This varies for many different people. It could be in the morning, but it's also the most competitive time. It's the most time it's the best time to get clicks, but it's also the most competitive time because your competitors are also sharing in the morning as well. So you want to test this out for yourself. For Facebook, there's been some studies that have shown that, and this is the biggest thing I see, is that a lot of businesses share Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, because that's when they have somebody on staff. But nowadays, Facebook allows you to queue up posts so you can share throughout the weekend even while you're not working. And Sundays have shown big spikes for some brands and some pages. You have to test this yourself because there's no good rule of thumb. But test the weekends because I see a lot of people not testing the weekends. Adversely test different times during the day. Now, last year, I write for searchengineland.com. Anybody heard of Search Engine Land? It's one of the biggest publications for SEO and social media news, if not the biggest. I'm an author on there. Last year, they tallied up all the content, and I had the #1 article on Search Engine Land, and this is from industry professionals that only write on the site. I also had the #6 article. The number one article I had was the social search revolution, 8 social SEO strategies to start using right now. This had 40,000 unique page views, 2,000 tweets, 700 likes, 550 Google Plus ones, and 1,350 LinkedIn shares. After I got the number one position last year in the most shared content, they asked me to write a post about how I did that, how I promoted my content, how I made the number one spot. So I did. I wrote this post called Propel Promotion of Your Content, 9 Ways I Promote Sharing Online. And here's a few of the tidbits that I've used that I told people about in this article about how I share content online, how I got the number one position. Submit to like-minded communities. There's a lot of niche communities out there on the web that you can submit your content to that people will check out. The example I use is inbound.org. If you go to that site, you can submit content about SEO, social media, marketing, etc. People vote on it. People vote on that content. If your content's popular, it goes to the top of the front page and where people check it out. I share on Google Plus using the public feature. You don't want to share to private circles. You want to make sure it's public so people can vote on it. But I also want to send to relevant circles. So I have tons of internet marketing friends in a circle called Internet Marketing. There's hundreds of people in there. I add them. They don't have to accept it. I just add them. And I can share to them instantaneously. It's like building my own email list without people opting in. Google Plus is powerful for that. And then once I do share on Google Plus and I send to those people, I can then use the post activity or the ripples feature to see who of their friends is sharing the content on Google Plus. And I'll go +1 them. +1 is a vote. So when those people are sharing, I go vote on their share, and then they see that I've +1 them. And they're like, hey, that guy was the author of this content. I want to be his friend. They'll go add me to their circles. I grow my circles, etc. And I make new connections online every time I post a new article. So the next time I post an article, I'll have even more power because I've gained new friends from the last article I posted. I share on LinkedIn groups. You can find a group on LinkedIn for almost any niche. We talked about that earlier with for used equipment. You can find any group of people on LinkedIn to share with. And again, that's one of the like-minded community things I mentioned in number 1, is that it's a targeted niche of people that really want to consume your content. Submit to StumbleUpon, Delicious, and Reddit. StumbleUpon, already talked about. Delicious is a bookmarking site that died and came back to life. And Reddit, you can find any category or what is called a subreddit to submit to. And these subreddits are like mini communities. Don't think of Reddit as one big community. Think of Reddit as a bunch of smaller sub-communities that are very niche that you can submit to. So you can go to the subreddit of SEO, the subreddit of link building, the subreddit of social media. Submit your content there, and it will likely get devoured. Follow up on comments. When people comment on your article that you're submitting or any piece of content that you're submitting, engage with them, talk to them, be responsive. Don't just submit and forget, because those people want to make sure that they're heard. And if they are heard, they're going to keep coming back to your site, and they're going to keep commenting. And that engagement is going to help your social shares, but it's also going to help your SEO because it's adding more content to your article, etc., etc. And thank influencers for shares. Very important. You want to watch who's sharing your content. If somebody stands out to you and they're prominent in your industry, they're sharing your content, thank them. Get it back on their radar. Say, hey, thanks for tweeting this. Thanks for liking this. I appreciate that. The reason being is because they're going to know that what they did was acknowledged, and then next time you publish again, you're probably going to be on their radar. And this is extremely important. So there are kind of 3 big things of promoting content. You have owned, earned, and paid media. Owned media is basically the channels that you have. Let's say you have a Facebook page for your business, that you own that. You have a Twitter channel, a StumbleUpon channel. You own that. So when you create a piece of content, you can go publish it there because you own that. You can publish it to your audience. Earned media is media that you get when you're promoting some content. It's basically third-party editorial endorsements. When somebody blogs about you, when somebody shares your content, when somebody writes about you on their publisher website or journal, that's earned media. It's third-party endorsements. Paid media is what you pay for when you're doing social ads, when you're doing Google ads. You're doing ads on Facebook, you're doing ads on LinkedIn, you're doing ads on Google AdWords. That's paid media. And it's really about thinking about ways to kind of integrate that all together to really promote your content. So for example, when you have owned content, you can create hashtags about certain subjects that you want people to look up. You can create tags, you can schedule the content. But really when the power comes in is promoting earned media with your owned media. And what I mean by that is that your audience that follows your owned media cares more about what somebody, a third party, is saying that you've earned more than what you're saying. So you can publish something on your own Facebook page that says, look how cool I am, I just did this, press release, blah, blah, blah. But people are going to trust what a third party is saying, such as, let's say you made the New York Times about your press release as well. They're going to care more about that, what that third party is saying about your brand. So if somebody is out there is talking about you, tell your audience that. Hell, buy ads to that. Buy Google ads, buy social ads. Let everybody know what a third party credible source is saying about you in order to get more visibility. Social media can be an abused word because it contains many different things. A lot of people tend to focus right here, Facebook and Twitter, maybe LinkedIn, on social networks. But there's so many places to share your content. I talked about StumbleUpon. Whoa. We have Reddit. When you're sharing images, you have Flickr. When you're sharing video, you have YouTube and Vimeo. Think about where your content belongs before promoting exclusively to Facebook and Twitter all the time. Along with that comes other benefits. So when you have multiple social media channels that you promote to and that you use, you start to earn the search result, start to own the search results for your brand name. And when someone types in your brand name or your company name or your personal name, your social media profiles start to come up and they start to take up the top 10 or the top 7 results and blocks other people out if they're powerful enough. And that can be very important for reputation management. If you have somebody that publishes something negative about your company or you or your brand, it keeps them from coming in the top results when someone types in your brand name. Some ways you can do that. Let's say you have a Pinterest account. You haven't done anything to it. It's likely not going to rank in the top results for your brand name or your personal name unless you build it up. And it's more about just building up from internal links as it is from external links. External links are sites that link to your Pinterest account. Internal links can help build up your social media account as well. And what I mean by that is this, and I'll walk you through an example. Okay, Pinterest. We're on Pinterest right now. This is called internal link funneling. This was, so Pinterest has a main category called tattoos. I'm a tattoo fan. This was one of the top tattoos on the site in that tattoo category. So what I did is I liked this. I like this tattoo. In turn, what happens is this is a link, okay? This unlike button right here is a link, which goes to this page, a likes page. And this likes page, therefore, has me as somebody who likes it. And therefore, when a search engine hits this popular page that everybody's liking, everybody's linking to, everybody's talking about, they follow the links through the buttons on the site, and then they eventually get to this likes page, and then they find my profile, and then they're passing link juice from me. So, wrap your head around that. A search engine is going to Pinterest. They're going to the tattoos category. They're finding a top page on the tattoos category. They're following this button. They follow my profile. that link value spreads from the home page down to my profile. The more you like and repin and engage with popular content and popular influencers on a social media site, the more likely that your own social profile is going to rank in the search results. You don't really have to do anything more than just engage in the content a little bit, engage in the popular content to get your social profiles ranked in the search results. Authorship is another very important thing. You can connect your author profile in Google Plus to the content that you publish online and create a little thumbnail image with your name next to content that you publish online. And this might not seem like a big deal, but an image next to a text link draws eyes, it draws attention, it gets people to look at it and click on it, and increases the click-through rate. And again, very important for rankings when you increase that engagement. Some resources I included in my slides. Email me, I'll send them to you, but they include headline formulas for creating viral content. They include tools for coming up with ideas that can create viral content, and can help you with the brainstorming phase of creating content that's likely to be shared and linked to. And that's all I have at this point. So any questions, lay them on me.